Welcome to the National Organization for Rare Disorders webinar, Driving Cures for Rare Diseases, the role of patient nonprofits in engaging industry and academic researchers to accelerate drug development. My name is Ashanti De Silva, and I am NORD's membership manager, and I'll be your facilitator for this meeting. Thank you so much for joining us to discuss how nonprofit organizations can best partner with academic researchers and industry to help drive cures for rare diseases. And we are so thrilled to see the amount of interest around this topic, and we're excited to help you learn from other organizations' experiences. This webinar is open to all in the rare community to help provide you with information and resources to build your capacity as research partners in drug development. And just a few notes, all lines are muted except for the speakers. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be made available shortly after this. And this is our wonderful membership team, Allie Crafton, Emily Ann Meyer, Debbie Drell, and myself, and we're dedicated to supporting each of you. NORD's mission is your mission. During this call, an issue raised or a topic discussed may prompt you to think of a question that does not get addressed specifically within the hour. So please feel free to reach out to our team, and I encourage you to email us at membership@rarediseases.org. We're here to help guide you to resources. This is NORD's mission. NORD, an independent nonprofit, is leading the fight to improve the lives of rare disease patients and families. And we do this by supporting patients and organizations, accelerating research, providing education, disseminating information, and driving public policy. And I have one quick announcement before I turn it over to our moderator. Registration is now available for the next round of Rare Launch workshops, which will be hosted as half-day events on the 27th and 28th. The first day will focus on topics related to forming a foundation, such as storytelling and fundraising for your organization, regardless of size. And the second day is going to focus on becoming research ready. So we'll include topics like the power of your data and community recruitment and engagement. And you can learn more about the workshops and register at the link on this slide. And please feel free to email us and I can send you the link directly. I'm sorry, there's no way to click on it right now. But now I'd like to introduce you to our moderator this afternoon, Vanessa Boulanger, NORD's talented Director of Research Programs. Vanessa, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashanti, and thank you to the audience for tuning in to join us today. During our session, we'll follow the agenda that you see here on the screen, starting with our 3 speaker presentations, and then we'll end the webinar with some time for Q&A. Throughout the webinar, we're going to collect questions at any time, so please do feel free to add them to the chat. And then we can have an open dialogue with our presenters at the end of the webinar during the allotted Q&A time. If you're watching the live webinar using the Zoom browser, there is a Q&A button located at the bottom of your window in the meeting controls bar. So if you just click on the Q&A button, it'll open up a Q&A box, then you can type in your question and submit. Okay, so now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenters, who we are so thrilled could join us to speak on this topic. First, we'll hear from Sandy Bulcher, President of the Maple Syrup Urine Disorder MSUD Family Support Group. And then next, we'll hear from Ty Pasquini, Policy and Research Director at the Congenital Hyperinsulinism International. And then Kelly Mercier, Chair of the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation Coordinating Center. I'm so fortunate to have these folks as colleagues, and I'm excited for you all to hear from them. So let me invite Sandy. So I'll turn it over to her to share with us her organization's experience collaborating with industry and academic researchers. Thank you so much for joining us, Sandy.
Thank you for having me. Like Vanessa said, my name is Sandy Bulcher. I'm the president of the MSUD Family Support Group. MSUD is an acronym for Maple Syrup Urine Disease. I'm also the parent of an adult with maple syrup urine disease. What is maple syrup urine disease? It's a very rare disorder of protein metabolism, a genetic disease. Late diagnosis can result in coma or death. Most babies are found on newborn screening and it presents in the newborn period. Currently, all states screen every newborn for MSUD. About 4 million babies are born in the US each year, and only 20 to 25 are diagnosed with MSUD. So as you can see, it's a very rare disorder. Our family support group is the only known support group in the entire world for MSUD. There are some smaller, more social organizations, but we're the only one that provides education and support and has conferences. We are a tax-exempt organization and 100% volunteer run and funded almost entirely by donations. The picture is of my son Jordan. This is when he was about 3 weeks old. At the time that he was born, Ohio did not screen for maple syrup urine disease, so he was diagnosed late at about 17 days of age. Fortunately, he was in a comatose state at that time, and unfortunately, he has done, did not have any brain damage, is done quite well. The incidence of MSUD is highest in the Mennonite population in the entire world. The most people with MSUD are in the Mennonite population in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania area primarily. The MSUD research in the early years, our organization was started in the early 80s, and at that time the support group was not really actively searching out research projects, and also there was little or no interest in MSUD research from the scientific community. We were primarily providing support and education. We were approached, though, by University of Pittsburgh, some researchers there that wanted to develop a mouse model for MSUD. Our families band together, raised $48,000. This was something that different, that we had not done any kind of fundraising like this at all in the past. And it was a huge undertaking for us. And that's ended up being very worthwhile. Scientists continue to use that mouse model to this day. We soon recognized that to move research forward and to increase awareness of MSUD, we needed to collaborate with more organizations. The likely collaborations came from like organizations with similar problems with that MSUD has, such as the PKU groups or the organic acidemias. Those organizations also follow, the diseases require a strict low protein diet and a special medical formula, just like maple syrup urine disease. We became more involved in attending the PKU meetings as well as the Genetic Metabolic Dietitians International, because the metabolic dietitians are a key part of management for those with MSUD. We also encouraged more attendance from our clinicians and scientists at our family meetings, which we have every 2 years. Became more involved with advocacy organizations such as NORD and Global Genes. The board traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with some NIH representatives. And then early on, about 2008, we participated in a proof of concept drug trial with Baylor, and we were involved in the recruitment for that particular drug trial. Unfortunately, that particular trial there's a company now that is moved forward with that research for a potential treatment. The catalyst for us really moving forward for advancing our research was in June of 2019. We were working with the University of Pennsylvania Orphan Disease Center. They were doing some gene therapy for maple syrup urine disease. And we expressed some concern and frustration with not knowing how, as a board, to move our organization forward and how to advance research for MSUD. They suggested what they called a think tank meeting, and scientists, researchers, clinicians, and a few of our family members participated in the event. It was a one-day event in Philadelphia. At that time, we established what is known about MSUD, the therapeutic approaches, long-term outcomes, and important endpoints, identified gaps in the current therapeutic approaches and research, and discussed potential approaches to and priorities for researchers moving forward. The meeting ended up being extremely helpful, and it really helped us to prioritize where our research was going and what we needed to focus on. Determining the worldwide prevalence of MSUD came up as an important thing over and over again. Researchers are always asking the question, how many people have MSUD in the world and where are they located? We've not been able to answer that question. So that was something that we know that we have to focus on, as well as identifying the clusters of MSUD nationally. We also determined we need to develop a voice of the patient survey to help identify unmet needs, and also work with companies to try to develop a home monitor, because that's sorely lacking in the treatment of maple syrup urine disease. We already had a medical advisory board, but we determined that we needed a scientific advisory board as well after the meeting, and we have been able to successfully start the scientific advisory board. And also a big priority was developing a registry. Prior to the think tank meeting, I think more of our approach to research was reactive rather than proactive, kind of changed our mindset. We became more proactive in seeking out research and also combing the literature for publications. We recognized some of the other areas that we needed to focus on for improvement in treatment, including how MSUD impacts the brain. We found out that we needed to work on getting an appointment for an FDA patient-focused meeting, identify and support the most promising gene and drug therapies, and also improve our website, which we are currently on, and the new website should launch soon to better reflect the work that we're doing, especially in research. As I said, a priority was coming up with and deciding what registry we were going to use. We previously had limited success with a registry that we developed through NBS Connect, created by Emory University. And perhaps the timing wasn't right, but or we didn't promote it well enough. But we ended up having to close that registry from lack of funding. But that registry was key in creating the current registry that we have. We ultimately partnered with CORDS, the Coordination of Rare Diseases at Sanford, located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We started working with them last summer, and over several months and much communication, we completed the registry and launched it last fall. We were able to translate it in both Spanish and Arabic for our those communities. We know that we do have some Spanish-speaking families, some clusters in Central in South America with that maple syrup urine disease, as well as Turkey and Saudi Arabia. To be successful, we know we needed a good campaign for promoting the registry. We looked through our database, mailed out letters for everyone, all the MSUD families in our database, added the CORDS registry information to our website with a link, promoted their registry via our social media, including our active Facebook group and our e-blast. We developed a script and frequently asked questions, and paid some of our family members to contact every support group member that we had contact information for. They educated them about the registry and then followed up with phone calls, emails, and texts. And the phone calls were really effective, and also was a gift card incentive. We ended up doing a drawing once a week for 10 weeks. CORDS drew a name for a $100 Visa gift card, and that was mailed to the individual that had completed a registry profile, and then we promoted that, and that was very successful. As I mentioned, we have a large Mennonite population and Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, as well as other areas across the U.S., and largely they do not have internet access. And of course, our registry was an online tool, so that proved to be a bit challenging, but the staff at CORDS was instrumental in reaching out to those families and completing the questionnaire either over the phone, one question at a time, or mailing the questionnaire to the families and then following up. Our research lead, one of our board members, also promoted the registry via a CORDS podcast, and we also collaborated with the Genetic Metabolic Dietitians International group to promote our registry. Much of what we did would not have been possible without a mini grant that we received from NORD to support this project. I'm happy to say that the campaign was extremely successful. We're really pleased with the results. In a couple of months, we had over 130 participants complete CORDS registry. And with our very small population, we were really pleased with that. The message that we wanted to send to our families was the single most important thing that you can do to advance MSUD research is to participate in the registry. Frequently get the question from families asking, what is going on with research? What can I do? And now we really have a place to point them to anytime they just start asking about research. I wish I could say that we accomplished everything that we wanted to after the think tank meeting. We still have some areas to work on, and I'm sure we always will. Still are working to try to determine the prevalence of MSUD and to identify those clusters. We worked a little bit with the International Newborn Screening Organization, thinking that that may be successful, but so many countries don't screen for MSUD that didn't prove as successful as we had hoped. We'd like to survey our families to identify unmet needs. Our registry will capture some of that, but there's certainly more we need to capture. We plan to promote the registry to our Spanish and Arabic-speaking families. In addition, our current registry is only a patient-entered registry. We would like in the future to have a clinician-entered data as well. We also would like to have a joint meeting with our medical and scientific advisors, and hopefully that will be at our next family conference next summer. We've been unsuccessful so far as far as getting the FDA patient-focused meeting, and we'll continue to work on that. And also plan to become more involved and more networking with clinicians, scientists, industry, and pharma at the national and international levels. This is a picture of the support group members for the MSUD Family Support Group. We are all parents of adult or small children with maple syrup urine disease. Many of us have been involved for many, many years. I'm fortunate to work with such a dedicated group of parents that feel as passionate about MSUD research and advancing it as I do. I'm very thankful for that. Next slide. And also thankful to have this opportunity to share the MSUD Family Support Group research journey. Thank you so much.
This is such great work. You've really made such progress, Sandy. Thank you for sharing your presentation with us today. And now we can turn it over to Ty Pasquini, who I will also invite onto camera. Oh, there she is. Great. Who will discuss how her organization has worked to develop collaborative partnerships to accelerate research. Thanks so much for joining us today, Ty.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Again, I am Ty Pasquini, and I am with Congenital Hyperinsulinism International. I joined them about a little over a year ago, and I'm also the Massachusetts Rare Action Network Volunteer Ambassador for NORD, so shout out to my fellow Massachusetts state members. So hyperinsulinism is the most frequent cause of severe persistent hypoglycemia in newborn babies and children. When blood sugars drop, hypoglycemia can lead to brain damage or even death. It's a very heterogeneous condition with different subtypes and identified genetic mutations, which means that there are some medications that work for some patients, but they currently do not work for all patients. There are also the consequences of HI overall are preventable. However, it's often overlooked, misdiagnosed, or mistreated. Treatments, as I said, are available for some patients and can include supplemental treatments, including feeding tubes and fast-acting carbs or glucagon. So CHI was founded in 2005. It grew out of a Yahoo support group of parents who came together and identified a need to have those connections and have that support of others who are going through this very complicated journey. The main focus is research, awareness, and support, and all of our work goes back to one of these three areas, and in reality, they all really intersect with each other. We are a truly international organization and work with partners all over the world, including researchers, patients, and medical professionals. And we also work with our counterparts in other rare hypoglycemias and also in support groups in particular countries that have a focus in hyperinsulinism. We also work with umbrella organizations such as NORD, and our main programs, these are some of the main programs that we have. So we are, to accomplish our three core goals, we have a family support forum where individuals can go and just patients and families are able to talk and discuss any concerns that they have about what they're experiencing and to have that support network. We started our HI Global Registry about 3 years ago now, and we are on the I Am Rare platform for NORD, through NORD, and we have surveys where individuals can share information about the different parts of their HI journey, diagnostics, genetics, feeding and diet, and different surveys. And this is as part of our goal to develop a natural history study and to understand what is really going on for patients and what are they experiencing. Through that, we also had the opportunity to join the RDCA-DAP initiative through CPATH. We thought it was a wonderful way to contribute not only what we were going to be learning and digging into in our own disease state, but also to participate and look across rare diseases and have an opportunity to see any commonalities that we may share with other members of our extended rare disease community. We are also one of the inaugural groups for Rare as One, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which has been an amazing opportunity to really understand the ways that we can grow and develop. And as you all might have seen, there's a call out now for that next group. And then finally, we're working on a Centers of Excellence program to designate the experts in multidisciplinary care centers that provide that highest level of care for our patients. But right now, our biggest initiative is our collaborative research network. This approach is not new. One of the most popular examples is in Castleman's disease, based on Dr. Feigenbaum's model that he put together with some of his colleagues. But we are using this as an approach to accelerate research and cures with patients at the center of what we are doing. It really values this collaboration across all stakeholders, including the researchers, clinicians, industry, patient organizations, and then, of course, the patients being at the center. In our mind, this is really building on the work and momentum of the research that is already being done. And we're working closely with our academic partners to help sort of shape and craft some of what's happening. So our big goals through the CRN right now are first and foremost to identify a strategically prioritized roadmap for HI research that all of us will benefit from, to understand what we need to uncover to move the state of understanding of disease and to support patients in a better way forward. Additionally, we are formulating our funding strategy and how we are going to support the initiative moving forward, and also to formalize our foundation for the network itself, so we have a sustainable structure for the network so we can continually build on what we have done. The main cornerstones of the CRN, which are at the core of everything that we're doing and working on, are collaboration with all of our partners and across the globe, elevating the patient voice to really make sure that the patient perspective is central to all of our work, making sure that access to anything that comes out of the network is available regardless of income and geography. This is access not only to treatments, but also to information and to the specialists that will serve our patients. Making sure that we're bringing in new ideas and open to innovation and concepts from other areas that may benefit our disease state. And then addressing diversity, equity, inclusion in all of our work and in our community, both for patients and for the research community. So I did a PhD program, and they make you sort of start to think in logic models. So I apologize for this somewhat jargony slide in some ways, but I do think it really helps to see how we're thinking about this. So we're taking our mission and our cornerstone values. We've developed our mission and our vision and our goals for where we want to go for a prioritized agenda and for supporting our patients in the long term. We have our foundational programs, some of which I spoke of before, our natural history and registry studies, awareness and education programs, the strength of our community connections and networking, and those are ongoing. And then to support this work now, we identified workstream groups, which I'll show you on the next slide, but are essentially the main concepts that we're digging into for this process to identify what's important. That's all feeding into each other. And once we're done with this cycle of work, we'll have hopefully our prioritized research agenda, which will lead to these new scientific and medical breakthroughs, and then an increased patient level support to access and care. And then we will evaluate, review the community needs. The goals and objectives will be modified. We'll go back up to the top and we'll start again. So for our disease and where we are in understanding HI, we decided that these were the most important topics to dig into. I think that one thing that's interesting for us is that we are having a group called What is HI? HI has many different subtypes, as I mentioned before, and we noticed that there's a lot of different ways that you can even refer to the disease based on genetic diagnosis, whether or not you may be responsive to our most popular treatment option, where you're sort of impacted within the pancreas. And we realized that even though our experts had a very clear idea of the differences between these types, they weren't necessarily all using the same language. And there were questions about when people were sort of part of our community. If you have a pancreatectomy where your pancreas removed, do you still have HI in the classic sense? So we went back to basics and are trying to, as a group, define the terminology, which will also help with prevalence and some of our other main goals. And then the rest of the groups, I think, are pretty straightforward. So as an example of what types of information we will be digging into in these groups, and I should say that every group includes medical experts and expert patient. So a patient who will be in the group providing their information or providing their perspective on an even playing field with the medical experts. The clinical trial industry engagement group is a little different. We are bringing in our pharmaceutical partners and some of the top, as well as our medical providers. And some of the topics that we'll be looking at are around universal clinical trial design, endpoints, prevalence, matching patients to trials to identify sort of how we serve our community best in making sure that we are contributing to the process of research, preclinical compound testing, sort of, and then a big one for us is identifying the next time to engage with FDA and EMA for regulatory meetings. So just to sort of see the types of topics that we are sort of looking at as a community that we will all benefit from in this work stream. In general, I wanted to highlight some of the other things that we work with industry on. So we are understanding that we are the experts, and we are trying to look at other ways that we can make sure that our patient community is represented in some of the clinical trials and some of the pharmaceutical initiatives that are happening. So things like reviewing protocols for clinical trial design and making recommendations such as, do the patients really need to be in the hospital for 12 days, or can you get the same information if they're only in the hospital for 7 days? That's a huge difference in quality of life for our patients if they're being monitored at home versus in the hospital. So even just looking at some of that and bringing that patient experience and perspective into some of the work that our partners are doing. So it's really focused on elevating our community's opportunities to work with the other partners in this space generally. But all of our work, both with academic researchers and with our industry partners, is really about elevating the patient voice. We start every meeting with a patient story. We include our patients at all conferences. We have a patient and family conference that focuses on patient needs and access issues and what's going on in the community. But then we have a second research conference, and our patients are all invited to that conference. They were, of course, virtual this last year, but we really make sure that the patients are in the room and able to sort of contribute to everything that's going on. So we ground all of our research opportunities with the experience of the patient and also with the stories. We did a great video series at our last conference around this "what is HI" concept. And doctors at the end were saying, wow, I never would have expected that someone with this type would have been having that problem. So we find that it's a really important way to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Right now, we're really working to formalize our opportunities to work across the community. So we make sure that we are all benefiting and working together instead of working in silos and working in a way where researchers may be starting their own initiatives, but not bringing the information back to the broader research community. And then really focusing on those common needs and shared goals so we can all elevate and learn from the information that we all need in order to advance opportunities for a better quality of life and better treatments and cures for our community. And thank you again for having me today. And I will be happy to answer any questions at the end once everyone's presented.
Thank you so much, Ty. That was great. Really, really incredible work that you all are doing. So I'm happy now to give a really warm welcome to our final speaker, Kelly Mercier, who will share how the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation is working to move drug development forward through thoughtful research and partnership. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you all for signing in today to listen. I do have a disclosure that I do work full-time for a pharmaceutical company. The information that I'm going to be sharing are opinions of my own and of the foundation, not of Jazz Pharmaceuticals. So it's important to understand initially what desmoid tumors are before we talk about the foundation. They're also known as aggressive fibromatosis. They affect 5 to 6 individuals out of 1 million per year. It's a non-metastatic sarcoma, can occur at any age, either gender, but most likely in females, any anatomic location. And the location of the tumors really does impact the symptomology for the patient. And so it could lead to severe pain, deformity, swelling, and issues relating to vital organs, leading to, unfortunately, death. The Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation's mission is to aggressively fund research. In the lack of understanding about these non-metastatic sarcoma, Marlene and Jeannie set upon pulling researchers and clinicians together to really tackle this for the patients through education, awareness, and support. So the foundation was founded in 2005 with the mission of, again, facilitating and funding research towards a cure. Every year we seem to gain momentum in terms of new trials, research discoveries, patient engagements. I want to talk about 4 specific items for the foundation that has led to furthering this mission for patients. The annual patient meeting and international research workshop, the patient-reported outcomes tool that was developed, a virtual tumor board, and then the patient registry and natural history study for which I am the principal investigator. So every September, we host a weekend meeting in Philadelphia that brings patients, caregivers, researchers, and clinicians together to talk about the latest research in desmoid tumors, albeit last year was a bit challenging. We still had an event where the patients and caregivers came together and had a meeting to support one another. At the same time, there is also a research meeting that goes on where we discuss all the latest findings amongst ourselves and then set priorities for the next year in terms of funding and unmet needs in terms of research. So every year, the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation funds a series of grants. These are peer-reviewed within the desmoid tumor community. You can see every year that we have increased the number of funding opportunities. I feel that the most important one for this conversation is a funding mechanism to support new investigators. This brings in new researchers in this field, bringing a new perspective to this rare disease. And that's very important for young investigators to have that vote of confidence and also be able to generate pilot data potentially for larger mechanisms from NCI. So in 2019, we decided to categorize our grants according to 3 different buckets. So tumor microenvironment, basic and translational research, genetic analysis, translational and clinical, and then novel clinical therapies. The overlapping theme is that we needed a place to house all of this data and to understand how it all fits together. So we formed the DTRF Data Coordinating Center last year. And this will bring together all of the data potentially generated from each one of these groupings into one central location. To drive this this new endeavor, we have hired a research director, Dr. Manish Kumar, and I am the coordinating center chair. This is just getting off the ground now, and really excited about the possibilities for the future of bringing all this data under one roof. The patient-reported outcomes tool was developed a number of years ago in collaboration with Mrinal Gunder and IQVIA. This patient-reported outcomes utility is specific for desmoid tumors to utilize in clinical trials. Because desmoid tumors are unique in that they are non-metastatic, they're treated as cancer but not necessarily classified because of their non-metastatic state, it's important to understand how the patients undergo their disease and what a successful treatment for them is. So this is a 28-item questionnaire, and it's currently undergoing a prospective validation in 2 ongoing trials for desmoid tumors. Additionally, it's important that clinicians who do not have access to desmoid tumor specific information to work with experts in this field. So to this point, the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation launched a virtual tumor board back in 2017 following a discussion at the research meeting. So there are 4 key tenets of this endeavor. So it needs to be multidisciplinary, resourceful, inclusive, and collaborative. And to those points, the core experts were identified for each one of the subdisciplines, and they all come together quarterly to meet to discuss up to 4 cases per meeting. Since 2017, there have been 37 cases, I believe, that have been discussed on this platform, ranging in age from 1 to 65 years old. You can see that most of the cases, 22, were less than 18 years of age, and the countries that participate all over the world. So we try to make it as accessible as possible for time, but we are in a global environment, so we have been honored by having individuals from India in particular sign on in the middle of the night in order to get the data and advice for their patients in a timely manner. So the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation was one of the first organizations accepted into the I Am Rare program in July of 2016. We used the core data sets that were supplied by NORD, which are not specific to desmoid tumors, but all rare disorders. We wrote additional ones to encompass desmoid tumor experience, such as the diagnostic process, treatments, comorbidities, etc. And we launched that study in 2017. Since then, you can see as of March 13th, we have 1,300 registered respondents, 1,100 consented participants, with 632 completed surveys. Each one of the participants has between 9 and 13 surveys to complete in order to have a full data set. It is a longitudinal study where we do ask patients annually about their treatments and their monitoring, in addition to their quality of life. So the purpose of the natural history study is to provide an online platform for participants to self-report their cases. It allows us to communicate to the registry participants about other clinical studies and research opportunities. We can aggregate all of the data to describe the tumor population in whole and to understand phenotypes for the disease that have not yet been characterized. It assists the tumor patient community with developing a standard of care by understanding, for instance, treatment protocols in different countries. And then it is a resource that can be used for researchers as well. We frequently have conversations with academics and industry partners about the kinds of data that we have in the registry, and then work with them to incorporate some of these information as prospective endpoints for their clinical studies. It's important that this data not live within the I Am Rare repository. So at every instance, we do try to share our learnings with the community, not only the desmoid tumor community, but rare as well as oncology. To this point, you can see that we have presented every year at the DTRF research meeting. We have a peer-reviewed publication in a journal from 2018. We have presented at ASCO, which is the annual oncology conference, normally in Chicago with 70,000 people who attend, most recently virtual. We've participated in a book project between NORD and Trio Health. We've participated in the NORD Summit to share our latest learnings, and we have 2 ASCO abstracts that are hopefully going to be accepted this week. So earlier this year, we did apply to be a part of the Rare Disease Cure Accelerator data and analytics platform. This is going to allow us to combine all of our data streams. As I mentioned with the coordinating center, it's really important that we get everything under one house, where we will be able to combine the natural history study, which includes diagnostics, disease monitoring, quality of life, treatments, and translational research, so animal models, primary cell lines, and clinical studies, either from academic partners or industry partners. Now, there becomes an issue potentially with intellectual property with industry partners. And we hope to at least get some control arms for the data, that when they do a randomized study, that we'll be able to understand what standard of care or how standard of care is performing in this patient population. So we have attempted as the DTRF to engage with not only researchers, but patients, to allow them to have ownership in their data. So to this end, the DTRF has funded cutting edge research, bringing all of the data under one house with the coordinating center and hopefully the RDCA-DAP. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, Vanessa, but we can talk about that. We have a PRO, patient-reported outcome for clinical studies. The virtual tumor board allows to enable clinicians who don't have access to expert opinions to get assistance in managing patient care, and then the collection of natural history and disseminating data with many different venues and conversations with our academic and industry partners. All of this together is really helping the DTRF take ownership of our data and accelerate the research process for desmoid tumors. I'm happy to answer any questions during the panel discussion, and here's my contact information if you want to engage afterwards.
Kelly, thank you so much. This was great. Okay, so I'll invite all of the speakers to join us back on camera. So we'll have a bit of time for question and answer with our speakers before we wrap up the webinar. And I see that we have a number in the chat already. So just kind of jumping right in. There's a question from the audience. We have a patient registry, an active patient community, and a voice of the patient report from an FDA meeting. But how exactly, how is all in capitals, how do you engage industry? How do you get pharma interested in your disease in the first place? And if you've done this, what do you think has worked well? So maybe I'll turn it to Ty first, and then we can just sort of touch on everybody's thoughts.
Sure. So I will say that when I joined Chi, there was already interest from pharma. So I personally was not part of this process, but I'll share with you some of the strategies that I've heard others suggest in how to do this. It sounds like you're doing all of the right things to make yourself quote unquote attractive to pharma. First of all, just knowing who your patient community is, having that base set of data, that is what's going to make you a really good candidate. I hate to put it this way, but just sort of using some of those terms. What I might suggest is finding if there are any other diseases that are similar to yours and finding out if there are any companies that are focused on that. So for us, for example, hyperinsulinism, there are companies that work in diabetes. So if we were to be going out to look at other companies who may have an interest, what can others who are working in that same body system potentially learn by working in your disease? So if there's anything that you can find that's sort of a commonality, I would say to either approach other organizations and go together, or to find the companies that are adjacent to what you're doing, find the researchers who are adjacent to what you're doing, and reach out that way.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I know, Kelly, you have some experience with this too, so maybe we can just jump to you.
Sure. So we have at the DTRF been rather fortunate to have therapies being developed without much prompting from the foundation. So there are several drugs that have either completed phase 3 or are near completion with phase 3. And we have been able to support those endeavors with assisting with recruiting. So that's really important, being able to find the patients for these studies so that it makes the timelines for these studies a little bit more palatable for the companies that we're working with.
Yeah, that's great. And Sandy, do you want to add anything here? Otherwise, I have another question sort of lined up for you.
I don't have anything else to add. They covered everything well. I guess one comment would be continually coming back and not letting the researchers and pharma forget about you. Every 6 months, what's going on? Give us an update. We're still out here. We're still interested. So we've been conscious of doing that as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So sort of staying on their radar, making sure that they know the progress that you're making, and being able to provide those sort of two-way updates or engagement. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Okay, so Sandy, as an organization who's sort of just starting out in research, or just starting out as an organization, how did you know when it was the right time to move into research, and what were the sort of like core elements that led to that decision?
It was really a couple of different things. We, in the last several years, let's say 5 or 6 years, we were being approached more by different researchers, and got a sense that more was actually finally happening in the world of MSUD research. So we were that, along with the fact that the board members that were part of the board right now were all just really clicked. We clicked. We all had the same goals. The backgrounds of the different board members also made it just a group that was ready to go and move forward.
Yeah, that's great. And this is sort of similar, but perhaps a little bit more focused on engagement with the FDA. But for, like Kelly, for example, for a group that has engaged successfully with the FDA, how have you determined when it was the right time to actually engage?
So we know from our partners in industry that they have completed studies, that they're looking to complete registrational studies, and making sure that the FDA, particularly the Oncology Center of Excellence, understands what a meaningful response is for the patients who have participated in the study. So being able to interpret what the patients have gone through to get them to the study is as important as a potential recessed response by an MRI. Understanding that someone is sleeping better and has less pain when they are on therapy is as important as a weighted T2 MRI that shows, again, response to treatment. Making sure the FDA knows how they their meaningful, and then that the experience that the patients have had on treatment is a meaningful one.
Yeah, such an important point, and such a sort of key position for patient organizations to be in, right? To be able to demonstrate that there are these other meaningful elements of the condition and other modifiable elements of the condition. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We have another question here for Sandy. Mm-hmm. As a family-driven treatment and research efforts, family-driven organization, driving treatment and research efforts, what were some of the largest challenges that you faced in your early days of working to connect families?
Distance, primarily, with such a rare community spread across the United States. Connecting with families has been difficult. Of course, prior to the internet, that was really, really difficult. Now it's a little easier. But really finding those families to build the organization was probably the most challenging thing at first.
And now they're sort of centralized within your network and your community. So it makes it a little bit easier to develop programs and engage the families. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, here we have a question for Kelly and Ty. So you both mentioned the RDCA-DAP. Could you share what the decision-making process was like internally within your organizations in relation to participation in RDCA-DAP and what you see as the value for having contributed your data?
So I can start. I really wanted to be a part of this project because not only is it going to be able to house our registry data, but as we are launching the coordinating center, it's going to be the central location potentially that we have all of our grantees add in their data. So as we move forward with the contracting process for our grants this year, we are including a statement that they need to agree to share their data on the platform of our choosing. Now, it can be embargoed until they publish to protect their academic integrity, or if it's an industry partner, to be able to protect, whatever IP is associated with it. But it's important to have everything in one location. And as someone who has, a full-time job doing something else, honestly, the analytics platform to be able to manipulate all of the data in one house, that was hugely appealing to us.
Yeah, I would say for us, it was, we really appreciated the connection that the project had with the partner organizations, with faster cures, and with sort of even just knowing that it was something that the FDA was aware of was really valuable to us as sort of a partner. And we really, our biggest conversation was just around making sure that we were aware of who would be requesting our particular disease data information. So that was one of the options that you could choose, sort of to know who requested your data. And once we had that sort of option in our contract, we were thrilled, and we really believe in the partnership opportunities and the research opportunities. So for us, that was sort of the only piece that we just, as soon as we saw that, we were really comfortable with the process.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, you know, it's been such a large initiative for us to be partners with the Critical Path Institute on, so it's so great to hear from you all on the sort of like receiving end of some of the work that we've been doing, that it's providing value and you're seeing sort of opportunity through the model. So thanks for those comments. Okay, we have another question here. Where have you felt that partnerships with industry or academic researchers have stumbled or stalled? And then how have you overcome those challenges? So maybe I'll pick on Ty one more time and I'll sort of circle through the rest of you as well after.
Yeah, I think in some ways, actually, the experience of RDCA-DAP has almost opened our mind more. And in terms of we are so supportive of anyone who wants to do research in our space. We want to move information forward. But I think one thing that's sometimes challenging, especially when you sometimes have new researchers who show up and want to then create their own thing. I will create my own registry, my own database in another place when you're trying to do that in your own space. So getting comfortable with just building this sense of collaboration of everyone. There's so much work to be done. There's so much we don't know. There's so much more we want to learn. So how can we all feel comfortable that we will take the opportunity to advance what we can, but also but break down some of those silos. And when there's things that we can all benefit from, come back, share the information in the right way that gives people credit for the work they did and move forward. So for us, it's about trying to break down the ego of some of these groups, to break down some of those silos, and just to really try with our researchers in academia to share that information, and in industry as well, to say you all keep asking for better quality of life data. So how can we all work together to get that information together?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And Kelly, I'm sorry, I don't think that we actually will have time. I'm so engaged with your points that I didn't realize we're at the top of the hour. So, you know, I'm certain that the panelists here would be open to continuing the conversation. So if there are folks in the audience that would like to reach out for more conversation, please do feel free to do that. And thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to our really spectacular panelists for sharing their insights and experiences. And thank you to the audience for joining us.